Welcome to the Pair Affair today. And today's topic is control your temper, like your anger. And as we talk more about these topics and we get into how to help yourself and how to help each other and how to inspire people with our stories, we always lead our podcast with a little story that we have to connect with a little bit. So here's our story about controlling your temper. There was once a little boy who had a very bad temper. His father decided to hand him a bag of nails and said that every time the boy lost his temper, he handed him a hammer to nail into a fence. On the first day, the boy hammered 37 nails into that fence. The boy gradually began to control his temper over the next few weeks, and the number of nails he was hammering into the fence slowly decreased. He discovered it was easy to control his temper than to hammer those nails into a fence. Finally, the day came when the boy didn't lose his temper at all. He told his father the news, and his father suggested that the boy should now pull out every nail that he nailed into the fence to keep his temper under control. The days passed, and the young boy was finally able to tell his father that all the nails were gone. Father took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. Father said, "You have done well, my son, but look at the holes in the fence. The fence will never be the same. When you say these things in anger, they leave a scar, just like you did here. You can put a knife in a man and draw it out. It doesn't matter how many times you say, 'I'm sorry,' the wound is still there." The moral of the story is control your anger. Don't say things to people in the heat of the moment that you may regret later. Some things in life you're unable to take back. As I read that story and as I brought that story up, and a lot of times we say things to people that, as I look at that story, we say things to people that are very hard to bring back because there's really not any reason why we lose our tempers. We don't think. We're not thinking because we're mad at that time. We feel that we are being taken advantage of. It's not fair. And so we want to say things, to get people upset because we're upset. Yesterday I was at work. I went outside for a minute, and this lady, the grandmother was babysitting her grandson, and the little boy, my gosh, he was just so upset about what grandma was not giving him at the time. And he cried and cried. And, eventually, grandmother, she gave in and gave him whatever he wanted. I think he wanted a little toy ball or something like that. But until he got that ball, he just hollered and screamed and screamed. And we all have, we all been in that situation where we've been on a plane, we've been somewhere, and the kid is losing his temper. But then as we get older, some people never mature enough to leave that toddler behavior behind. Sometimes we work with people who really have bad tempers, and they'll say things to you that will leave a scar, that will put a nail in you. And then they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but the wound is still there. The wound is still there. Will it heal up? It may eventually, but it's still there. There's things that happened to me in my life that the scar is still there. People have said things. People still say things. But as you get older, I think you either you don't listen to them or you just don't worry about it. But the scar is still there with some things that happened to me in my life that really have never, ever healed up. And then when I come across those people again, I still, I don't know if I've ever forgave them for what they said to me or what they've done to me. Because a lot of times these words, and we talk about sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not true. And I hear that a lot. We learn that, oh, that's just words. They'll never hurt you. But people are going to carry around those words. People carry around those words all the time. And we have a choice of letting it go or carrying it around with us. But a lot of times we want to carry things around with us. The more we carry it around, the more bitter we get. Sometimes we have to, and we don't have to understand that there's tools, there's things that we can do to let go of some of these things. Even though the scars in that fence, even though the holes were still there, even though the holes were still there, they were still a reminder of all the anger the person had. Even though we all have bosses, we all had people we worked with, and they get upset and they talk to us a certain way, and then they want certain favors, they want certain things done, but we're not able to give them our 100% effort. And I realized you give your effort because you like your job. And that's the main, you enjoy your job. You're not working under that boss. You're working for yourself. You're working for your family, and you drop your pride and you keep moving on. Because there's things that are said to me when I'm at work that I have to really ignore, because I don't want to go back to that toddler stage and start acting and start being angry about things because someone said something. And be honest with you, a lot of times people will say things to you and they're mad. They're mad. No, they're not mad. You're mad. And then they don't really care what they said. They went on about their way. I heard this story a long time ago about this person. They were in New York City. They were in New York City, and the guy was catching a cab one day, and so he got in the cab, and then they started on their way, and he was trying to go across town, and he noticed the taxi driver. He was driving. Everyone was honking at the taxi driver, and he was just going about his way. He wasn't speeding. He was just going an average amount. And people were honking, and they were sticking their hands out the window and telling the guy, "You can't drive," and giving him the finger and all this other stuff. And the guy in the back asked the taxi driver, said, "Hey, doesn't that bother you? Doesn't that bother you that people are cutting you off and swearing at you?" And, he said one time, there's somebody who threw something at the taxi. And he says, "No, that doesn't bother me." He said, "A lot of times people are like garbage trucks, because they're going to be going around and they're going to be dumping their garbage on you. You didn't do anything to them. And you are going to really, you're going to have to receive that stuff. And then you got to have a choice." He said, "People are like garbage trucks. They're going to be dumping their situation off on you. And you can either sit there and smell the garbage that they're going to be giving you, or you can just say, hey, I got to just keep moving. I have to keep moving." And he said what impressed him mostly about the taxi driver, every time somebody would throw something or flip him off or say mean words to him, he would just wave and smile. He would just wave and smile. Real simple. Wave and smile. And I was like, wow, that's just really self-control. How do you do that? You know, I notice the city I live in, people cut me off all the time, and I'm upset. Sometimes it all depends. There's a certain part of the freeway where if you don't get to the right, you can't go that way. And there's always that person who goes on the left-hand side of you who at the last moment wants to jump over into your lane. And you have to really say, wow, is it really worth me crashing my car, losing my temper, losing my life over getting down the freeway? And that's the thing about as you get older or you're more mature, certain things should not get you angry anymore. Just like I thought about the little boy who was yelling and screaming with his grandmother. Hopefully, 20 years from now, he's not doing the same thing. If he is, he hasn't matured enough. And that's what we have to worry about, is controlling our anger, because there's every day that you start your car up or start your day, you're going to get angry. Today, as I get ready every day, I turn on the news. I turn on the news every day, and I as I'm dressing or getting ready, I walk by this TV to see what's the headlines. And there's some days I get really angry at the news, and I said, well, just turn it off. If you can't handle your control and you get mad at every news story that's coming up on a news program, that's not a way to start your day. I said, just turn it off. It's real simple. If you don't want to hear negative stuff, turn it off. So lately I just say, okay, well, you just can't just turn things off sometimes. Sometimes you have to deal with things. So I said, I'm gonna leave it on. but I'm not going to put any thought behind it. I'm not going to really put too much thought behind what's going on. I'm just going to like, well, that's great. I'm great. I'm glad things are working out for them. Oh, I'm not going to be, oh, that's so sad. But I'm thinking like, oh, I saw something today on the news. It just made me really like, wow, what's going on out there? But then I said, you know what? Let's not start our day. Let's start with something positive today. Let's start something that's going to uplift you today. It's going to get you through the day. Because as I turn on the news, it's already getting me angry. It's already getting me upset. And then I go to my job, and then someone says something to me at my job, and I get upset. Someone else says something. It's like a snowball effect. And I got to make sure that my snowball is small. I don't want a big snowman. I want a small, small, small snow. Because to be honest with you, I only have so much energy each day. We only have so much energy. And we can't put all our energy on fighting and being angry all the time. But you have to learn how to do that. A lot of times we think it's just, well, they said this to me and I'm going to get them back and I'm going to do this. Well, they said it. That's their opinion. That's their opinion. That's all it is. What's the big deal? Well, they're disrespecting me. Who cares? They're not, it takes a bigger person to ignore a lot of that stuff. When you get down to their level and you start getting angry, and it gets you off task, it gets you off focus. And what I mean by it gets you off focus is if you're going down the road and you see something that gets you angry, you won't be able to go to your goals. You won't be able to attain your goals because you're so focused on what happened over there. So sometimes you got to put those blinders on. Of course, okay, it got me mad. I'm here because I need to get there. And I remember what someone said to me a long time ago. A lot of things that are good things that are happening to you, make sure you store them up. Make sure you store them up. Make sure that you do not release those things. And then he says it's like having a bag. Put all the good things in a bag. He said, but you're also going to have a bag for negative things. He said, but the trick about the negative things and the things that get you upset is you got the bottom of that bag, cut a hole in that bag. You cut a hole in that bag. And so every time there's something negative happens to you or you get mad or whatever happens to you, put it in that negative bag and it'll go straight through. And you just drop it, and wherever it is, just leave it there. Just leave it. But all the good stuff, you just keep walking and you keep going. You just keep going. One of the things that I like to see is how people deal with, they deal with certain problems. And one of the things that I watch I watch sports a lot. And I don't really care who wins or, who loses. I like to watch the people who are making the decisions I like to watching the coaches. I like watching the managers in baseball or the coaches in football. I like to watch the people who are under control. I like to see the people that things don't bother them too much. Everything's going crazy around them, but they're cool. They're calm. Those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with a bunch of people who are mad all the time and angry all the time, yeah, most likely that's what's going to happen to you. But if you're calm, you make good decisions about things, it's going to work out. But if you have a bunch of people who fly off the handle all the time, those, it's effective, I guess, for the first 5 minutes. But then you have to realize you have to do some other things. One of the books that I've read, I read this little book every year. It's called Hatchet, and it's probably a 6th grade, 7th grade reading level book. It's about this boy who lives with his mother in New York, and his father's working in the oil field in Canada somewhere. And so he has to go visit his father in the oil fields in Canada. So the father sends him a plane, a little, a 2-seat Cessna plane to go get him. What happens is they pick him up. Mom kisses him. Bye. She gives him a hatchet. And so he gets on the plane. And what happens as he's on the plane, the pilot has a heart attack. Pilot has a heart attack. And so the boy doesn't know how to fly. The boy doesn't know how to fly. So he takes control of the plane and whatnot. And somehow or another, he maneuvers the plane and he lands in this pond, this big old pond in Canada somewhere. But one of the parts of the story is as he's trying to survive out there, and but in one of the parts, he's very frustrated. And what happened in one of the parts, he gets really frustrated because he's stranded out there. And he starts throwing a tantrum and he starts raging and yelling and all this other stuff. And he starts just acting a fool. But after he acts a fool and he's all out of energy, and he sits back because he can't start a fire. So that's the problem. He can't start a fire. So after he can't start a fire and he's still mad at the situation and he's still there, mad, he realizes as he lost his temper, he sits down and he's like, wow, nothing has changed. All the things change is, I don't have a fire. Problem is still there. And he has to start thinking differently. I still got to get this fire lit. Even though I spent 20 minutes crying and yelling and breaking stuff and spending all this energy, fire still has to be lit. So when you're faced with problems out there and when we're faced with situations, I know we want to yell. We want to get angry. We want to do certain things. But eventually we have to settle down, control ourselves because we don't want to make more damage than what it is at this time. So we have to think very clearly and we have to make good decisions. And I'm not saying I make good decisions all the time because sometimes I'll make a decision. I really didn't think that one out too close. So as we go out there and you're going to be tested, you're going to be tested on your anger. It's not like the test is going to go away. People are going to test you because they know what button to push. And once people know the button to push, they will continue to push that button because they know that will get you upset. So as we go and as we leave and as we make sure, and I say this all the time, take a couple, when people are getting you upset, a couple things I do is I take a deep breath. And then another thing I do is I take a deep breath. I said, is it really worth me getting upset about? Is it going to affect me from getting to my goal? If it's not going to affect me, if it's going to get me off my track of getting to my goal, I'm not going to worry about it. But if it's going to affect me, I'll get a little upset, but I got to settle down and get better options. Okay. Well, thank you. And hopefully you have a great day out there. And thanks again for joining us on the Parafair. And we've been getting a lot of great feedback. Instagram, posted some things on Facebook. And so you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And thanks again for listening and supporting us and encouraging us to do a better job. And hopefully this makes a difference in your life or makes your day better. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.